The lie that sounds harmless but ruins lives for most of my life. I believed tomorrow was safe. It felt neutral, almost comforting. Saying I'll start tomorrow didn't feel like a mistake. It felt responsible, patient, reasonable. I wasn't giving up. I was just postponing. At least, that's what I told myself. But over time, I began to see something unsettling. Tomorrow is not a plan. It's a lie we repeat to avoid discomfort today, and it's the most dangerous one we believe. What makes this lie so powerful is how gentle it sounds. It doesn't scream failure. It whispers permission. Just one more rest. Just one more video. Just one more delay. And while you're busy convincing yourself that you'll act later, time moves forward silently. No alarms. No warnings, no second chances. This is why learning how mindset shapes your life isn't about big ideas. It's about the small lies you allow yourself to believe every single day. I used to think time would feel different when it was running out, louder, heavier, more urgent. But that's not how it works. Time doesn't announce itself. It leaves quietly. Days disappear without drama. Weeks pass without memory. Months vanish without impact. And one day, you look back and realize that nothing changed, not because you couldn't change, but because you kept choosing comfort over action. I searched for answers in books and videos about how to stay positive in tough times. But positivity didn't solve the problem. Awareness did. This is where Steve's story began to feel uncomfortably familiar to me. He had intelligence. He had ambition. But he also had an enemy that looked harmless. Delay. Every morning he pressed snooze. Not because he hated his life, but because 5 more minutes felt easier than discipline. Those 5 minutes slowly trained him to disrespect time. And time never forgives disrespect. Steve didn't lose his future in one bad decision. He lost it in hundreds of small ones. Each time he chose entertainment over effort. Each time he chose escape over responsibility. Each time he told himself he still had plenty of time. That's why this story isn't just about him. It's about all of us. We all think we're different, smarter, younger, more aware. But the lie of tomorrow works the same on everyone. It doesn't care how talented you are. It only cares how consistent you are. Understanding how to control negative thoughts didn't help Steve at first because his thoughts weren't negative. They were comforting. They told him he was still young, that he could catch up later, that nothing was urgent yet. But urgency isn't something that arrives on its own. You create it by respecting time, or you lose everything by ignoring it. This is the moment most people miss. Tomorrow isn't dangerous because it never comes. It's dangerous because it always comes until one day it doesn't. And when that day arrives, it's already too late to negotiate with time. How delay slowly becomes a habit. You don't notice what makes tomorrow so dangerous is not the word itself, but what it trains inside you. Every time you delay something important, your mind learns a lesson. Not the lesson you think, but a deeper one. It learns that comfort has priority over commitment. That feeling matters more than purpose. That action can always wait. And habits are nothing more than repeated lessons. Steve didn't wake up one day and decide to waste his life. He practiced wasting time in small, forgettable ways until it felt normal. At first, delay feels harmless. You still believe in your future. You still talk about your goals. You still imagine the person you want to become. That's why procrastination is so deceptive. It lets you keep the dream while avoiding the work. Steve would sit with his books open, phone nearby, telling himself he was preparing mentally. One message turned into 10. One video turned into an hour. And when guilt appeared, he silenced it with the same lie. Make up for it tomorrow! This is where how mindset shapes your life. Stops being theory and becomes reality. What you repeatedly excuse becomes what you accept. Over time, Steve's relationship with effort changed. Effort started to feel heavy. Discipline started to feel unnatural. His mind resisted structure because it had been trained to avoid it. That's the cost most people don't see. Delay doesn't just steal time, it weakens your ability to act. The more you postpone, the harder it becomes to start. This is why so many people search for answers on how to stay positive in tough times but still feel stuck. Positivity doesn't undo bad habits. Only action does. Steve felt this internally long before anyone noticed externally. Hin. He felt anxious. He felt ashamed of how easy things used to feel. But instead of facing those feelings, he escaped again. Comfort became his refuge. Entertainment became his enemy. Learning how to control negative thoughts didn't help because the thoughts weren't attacking him. They were protecting the habit. They said, "You deserve rest." Even when he hadn't earned it, they said, "You'll fix it later." Even as later became a pattern, this is how time wins without fighting. It doesn't need force. It just waits while you negotiate with yourself. And every negotiation you lose teaches you something dangerous that you reward. Yourself doesn't matter. Steve didn't realize it then, but each broken promise weakened his self. And without self-trust, discipline collapses. The most painful part is that from the outside, nothing looks wrong. Steve still laughed with friends, still dreamed, still believed he was different. But inside, momentum was gone, and momentum is life. Once it's lost, everything feels harder than it should. This is the silent costs of tomorrow. It doesn't destroy you suddenly. It teaches you to destroy yourself slowly. When time stops feeling infinite, there comes a moment when time stops feeling generous. Not because a clock announces it, but because life does. For Steve, that moment didn't arrive with disaster. It arrived with comparison. He watched classmates move forward while he stayed in the same place. Some learned new skills. Some built discipline. Some failed and tried again. Steve, meanwhile, kept waiting for the right mood, the right motivation, the right moment, and slowly, a quiet fear settled in. The fear that he was falling behind, not because he wasn't capable, but because he wasn't active. This is where the illusion of unlimited time begins to crack. Youth feels endless until it isn't. Energy feels permanent until it fades. Opportunities feel repeatable until they disappear. Steve still told himself he had time, but now the lie felt thinner. He started to notice the cost of delay in real terms. Lower grades, weaker confidence, growing anxiety. He searched for comfort and advice about how to stay hopeful when struggling. But hope without movement only made the gap between who he was, who he wanted to be, feel wider. What changed inside Steve wasn't urgency, it was awareness. He began to see how time treats everyone equally and rewards no one. Lo sé. The same 24 hours passed through everyone's hands. Some invested them. Some spent. Some wasted them. That's when how mindset shapes your life became undeniable. A mindset that assumes later is always available lives differently than one that respects the present moment. One builds, the other drifts. Steve also realized something uncomfortable. Time doesn't just move forward, it compounds. Small actions repeated daily create massive outcomes. Small delays repeated daily create regret. He had underestimated this law. He thought only big decisions mattered. But it was the small ones, the snooze button, the extra scroll, skipped task, that shaped his direction. Learning how to control negative thoughts helped him name the fear beneath his habits. But naming it wasn't enough anymore. He needed to act. This is the stage where many people feel stuck between awareness and change. They know what's wrong, but habits still pull harder than intention. Steve felt that tension deeply. He wanted to change, but his routine resisted him. Time had trained him well just in the wrong direction, and retraining himself felt painful. But pain he was beginning to learn was a better teacher than comfort. This is the moment when tomorrow becomes dangerous in a new way. Not as a soft excuse, but as a threat. Because once you see the cost of delay, choosing it again is no longer ignorance, it's surrender. The wake-up call that couldn't be ignored, Steve's real turning point, didn't come from shame or fear alone. It came from hearing the truth spoken plainly, without comfort or judgment. When the old man told him that his problem wasn't intelligence, but respect for time, something inside Steve broke open. For the first time, he stopped blaming circumstances. He stopped blaming distractions. He stopped blaming motivation. He saw the pattern clearly. He had treated time as something flexible, negotiable, forgiving, and time is none of those things. The story of the king and the treasury hit him harder than expected. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was familiar. The man in the story wasn't unlucky. He wasn't weak. He wasn't denied opportunity. He simply delayed again and again. Each delay felt small. Each one felt harmless. And together, they destroyed the only chance he had. Steve realized that this was exactly how he had been living. Not wasting everything at once, but wasting it slowly, comfortably, politely. This is when how mindset shapes your life becomes painfully personal. Steve saw that his mindset wasn't neutral. It was permissive. It allowed delay. It excused inconsistency. It protected comfort. And because of that, it quietly shaped a future he didn't want. He had tried reading about how to stay positive in tough times, but positivity had only softened the pain of inaction. What he needed wasn't reassurance, it was responsibility. That night, Steve didn't sleep much. His mind replayed every tomorrow he had ever said, every opportunity postponed, every habit avoided. But instead of drowning in regret, something else appeared. Urgency, not panic. Not panic, urgency. A clear understanding that change doesn't happen when you feel ready. It happens when you decide that delay is no longer acceptable. Learning how to control negative thoughts mattered less in that moment than learning how to tolerate discomfort. Growth would hurt, and that was okay. The next morning, Steve acted differently. Not perfectly, not dramatically, but deliberately. He got up when the alarm rang. He didn't wait to feel motivated. He completed one task before touching his phone. One small act of respect toward time. It felt uncomfortable. It felt unnatural, but it also felt honest. For the first time in a long while, his actions matched his intentions. This is the moment most people misunderstand. Change doesn't begin with confidence. It begins with friction. Steve didn't suddenly feel strong. He felt awkward and resistant. But that resistance was proof. He was finally moving against old habits instead of surrendering to them. Tomorrow had lost its power. Today had become unavoidable. Learning to respect time one small decision at a time, Steve quickly learned that respecting time wasn't a single decision, it was a daily practice. The first few days were the hardest. His body resisted waking up early. His mind searched for excuses. Every habit he had built around comfort pushed back. He failed some mornings. He slipped back into old patterns. But something was different now. He noticed the failure immediately. He didn't hide from it. He corrected it. That awareness alone changed everything. Before, Steve thought discipline was about doing big things perfectly. Now, he saw it differently. Discipline was about doing small things consistently. One focused hour, one completed task, one moment of choosing effort over ease. Learning how mindset shapes your life became very practical. His mindset wasn't changing because he thought differently, it was changing because he acted differently. Action rewired his identity. As days turned into weeks, something subtle happened. Time began to feel heavier, not in a bad way, but in a meaningful one. Each hour felt valuable. Each morning felt like an opportunity instead of an obstacle. Steve stopped rushing through his days without memory. He became present. That presence made distractions easier to spot and harder to obey. Learning how to control negative thoughts helped him recognize when his mind tried to bargain for delay. But discipline taught him how to refuse. Steve also noticed how consistency rebuilt his confidence. Confidence didn't come from results at first. It came from keeping promises to himself. Each promise kept strengthened each broken promise weakened it. He finally understood how to stay hopeful when struggling depends so. Motivational. Hope grows when you prove to yourself that change is possible, not when you wish it were. This phase wasn't glamorous. There were no sudden breakthroughs, no applause, no visible success yet. But something far more important was happening beneath the surface. Steve was becoming someone who respected time, and time quietly began to respect him back. When time starts working with you instead of against you after a while, Steve noticed a shift that he hadn't expected. Life didn't suddenly become easier, but it became clearer. When he respected his time, his days stopped feeling chaotic. He no longer wondered where the hours had gone. Every day had structure. Every task had a place. That structure gave his mind something it had lacked for years: calm. This is when Steve truly understood how mindset shapes your life. His mindset wasn't forcing discipline anymore. Discipline was shaping his mindset. He didn't wake up asking, "Do I feel like working today?" Asked, "What needs to be done today?" That single change removed endless internal battles. Decision fatigue faded. Time stopped feeling like an enemy chasing him. It became a partner responding to effort. Steve still faced negative thoughts. Doubt didn't disappear. Fear didn't vanish. But now he knew how to control negative thoughts in a practical way. He didn't argue with them. He didn't analyze them. He moved despite them. Action made them quieter. The more he acted, the less power they had. Delay had fed those thoughts for years. Discipline starved them. Something else changed too. Results began to appear, not massive ones, but enough to matter. His grades improved. His focus sharpened. His confidence grew steadily. And for the first time, Steve experienced something many people never do: progress without panic. He wasn't racing anymore. He was building. Learning how to stay positive in tough times no longer meant pretending. Everything was fine. It meant trusting the process he had committed to. Steve realized that time doesn't reward intensity, it rewards consistency. Anyone can work hard for a week. Few people show up every day without applause. This is where most dreams die. Steve didn't know if he would succeed long term, but he knew something crucial. He was no longer wasting his life waiting. Time was still moving forward, but now it was carrying him instead of leaving him behind. The quiet power of consistency weeks turned into months, and something subtle but powerful happened in Steve's life. He stopped looking for motivation. He no longer waited to feel ready. He understood something most people miss. Motivation is unreliable, but consistency is always available. This realization changed everything. It was the foundation of a motivational story in English that wasn't loud or dramatic, but deeply real. Steve's days became simple. Wake up. Do the work. Reduce distractions. Repeat. Some days were productive, others were slow. A few felt pointless, but he showed up anyway. That's when he learned how to stay hopeful when struggling. Hope didn't come from results, it came from identity. He wasn't someone who tried. He was someone who showed up. The world around him didn't immediately notice the change. There were no compliments, no sadhan praise. In fact, some people doubted him more than before. "You'll burn out," they said. "You're overdoing it." But Steve had learned something valuable. Consistency looks boring to people who live for excitement. Growth happens quietly, far from attention. This period taught him how to stay positive in tough times without lying to himself. He accepted bad days without quitting. He accepted slow progress without doubting his worth. He realized that positive thinking isn't pretending everything is goody, it's refusing to quit when things are hard. This mindset slowly reshaped his life, proving again how mindset shapes your life more than talent ever could. Steve also noticed his thoughts changing. When procrastination whispered, he recognized it. When excuses appeared, he didn't fight them. He ignored them. This is real, how to control negative thoughts. Not by suppressing them, but by acting before they take control. Action became his answer to doubt. Months later, looking back, felt strange. The same 24 hours that once disappeared now felt full. Time hadn't slowed down. Steve had simply stopped wasting it. And in that quiet consistency, his future began to form steady, strong, and undeniable. When discipline becomes identity, there came a moment when Steve realized something profound. He was no longer forcing discipline. Discipline had become who he was. This didn't happen overnight. It wasn't a dramatic transformation. It was the result of hundreds of small decisions stacking quietly on top of each other. Each early morning, each focused hour, each time he chose effort over comfort. This is when Steve truly understood how mindset shapes your life. Before, his mindset waited for permission. Now, it gave direction. He didn't ask life what was possible. He decided what he would commit to and let time respond. And time always responds to consistency. Steve still faced setbacks. He failed exams. He misunderstood lessons. He lost momentum on some days. But instead of spiraling into negativity, he applied what he had learned about how to control negative thoughts. He treated failure as information, not identity. One bad day no longer meant a bad life. One mistake no longer erased progress. This phase taught him how to stay hopeful when struggling without relying on emotion. Hope became practical. It lived inside routine. Inside showing up. Inside the simple truth that effort compounds, whether you feel inspired or not. Steve wasn't chasing happiness anymore. He was building reliability within himself. People around him started noticing, not because he talked about discipline, but because his actions spoke. Teachers trusted him. Friends asked for advice. His parents saw peace, replacing anxiety. For the first time, Steve felt respect not from others, but from himself. That respect was stronger than any praise. This wasn't just a positive thinking story with moral. It was a lesson written through repetition. Steve learned that discipline isn't restriction, it's freedom. Freedom from chaos. Freedom from regret. Freedom from the dangerous lie that tomorrow will save you. And as time continued to move forward, Steve no longer feared it. He had learned how to walk with it. The cost of ignoring time. As Steve grew stronger and disciplined, he also became more aware of something uncomfortable. He started seeing clearly what happens to people who never change. Friends he once related to were still stuck in the same cycles. Same excuses. Same complaints. Same wasted hours. Nothing around him improved because nothing inside them changed. This wasn't it was clarity. Steve understood now that time doesn't punish people, it simply reveals truth. It shows who respected it and who ignored it. Watching others struggle taught him how mindset shapes your life in ways no lecture ever could. Talent didn't separate them. Intelligence didn't. Time usage did. He also learned something painful about regret. Regret isn't loud at first. It starts as quiet discomfort. Then it becomes frustration. Then bitterness. This is why learning how to control negative thoughts early matters so much. When people ignore those thoughts instead of acting, they don't disappear. They grow. They turn into resentment toward the world. Steve felt grateful he had changed when he did. He knew he could have easily ended up like many others, always planning, never executing. This awareness deepened his ability to understand how to stay positive in tough times. Gratitude became a stabilizer. He didn't waste energy wishing the past were different. He focused on using today correctly. Time taught Steve a final hard lesson. You don't wake up one day and ruin your life. You do it slowly, through delay. In the same way, you don't wake up successful. You build it quietly through consistency. This truth became the backbone of his personal motivational story in ink. Flashy, but honest. Steve no longer feared the future. He respected it. And because of that, he started building one worth living. The day Steve stopped waiting, there was a specific morning Steve remembered clearly. Nothing special happened that day. No big exam, no announcement, no reward. But it was the day he realized he no longer waited for. Life to begin. He had already started living it. That realization didn't come with excitement. It came with calm. Steve noticed how different his relationship with time had become. Before, time felt like pressure. Now, it felt like responsibility. He understood deeply how mindset shapes your life. His days weren't controlled by urgency anymore, but by intention. Plan. He executed. He reflected. And then he repeated the process. This is where many people misunderstand how to stay positive in tough times. Positivity isn't constant happiness. Steve still felt tired, still felt doubts, still questioned himself sometimes. But positivity became trust in action. Even on bad days, he trusted that doing the work mattered. That trust protected him from quitting. Negative thoughts still appeared. What if this effort leads nowhere? What if you're too late? Steve didn't fight those thoughts. He applied what he learned about how to control negative thoughts. He moved. Anyway, action turned uncertainty into momentum, and momentum silenced fear. He also realized something sobering. Tomorrow had lost its power over him. It no longer felt comforting. Tomorrow felt dangerous, because tomorrow was where procrastination lived. Today was where progress happened. That awareness kept him grounded. This part of his journey became the core of his positive thinking. Story with moral? The moral wasn't believe in yourself. It was respect your time. Because belief without action is fantasy. Action without consistency is chaos. But discipline over time creates change. Steve didn't become perfect. He became reliable. And reliability built everything else. Time as a mirror as the years moved forward. Steve see time differently. Time stopped feeling abstract. It became a mirror. Whatever he put into it, it reflected back. When he gave focus, it returned progress. When he gave effort, it returned confidence. When he gave consistency, it returned results. Slowly, quietly, without drama. This is when Steve truly grasped how mindset shapes your life. He realized that time doesn't change people, habits do. Time only reveals what habits build. This understanding removed a lot of frustration from his life. He stopped asking, why isn't this happening faster? And started asking, am I doing the right thing every day? That question grounded him. Steve also noticed that discipline had given him emotional stability. When things didn't go his way, he didn't collapse. Adjusted. When something failed, he didn't quit. Improved. This was the real lesson behind how to stay hopeful when struggling. Hope wasn't about optimism anymore. It was about evidence. Every disciplined day was proof that change was happening, even if it wasn't visible yet. Negative thoughts still came, especially during quiet moments. But now Steve understood how to control negative thoughts in a deeper way. He didn't identify with them. He treated them like temporary conditions, not permanent truths. Some days were cloudy. He still showed up. Looking back, Steve understood that the biggest danger had never been failure. It was delay. Delay had almost stolen his future without him noticing. This realization made his story a true motivational story in English. Not because it inspired fantasy, but because it exposed reality. Time had not waited for Steve, but Steve had finally learned to walk at the same pace as time. The quiet separation, one of the strangest things Steve experienced, was how naturally distance appeared between him and certain people. Not because of conflict, not because of pride, simply because his habits had changed. While others stayed up late scrolling, he slept. While others complained about lack of time, he planned his days. While others waited for motivation, he worked without it. This separation wasn't intentional. It was inevitable. Steve saw clearly how mindset shapes your life. His mindset had shifted from consumption to creation, from reaction to intention. And that shift quietly filtered his environment. Some people drifted away. Others leaned closer, curious about the change. A few asked questions. Most stayed silent. He also noticed how discipline protected his mental health. Before, wasted time created anxiety. Now, structure created peace. This helped him understand how to stay positive in tough times without forcing fake optimism, even on difficult days. His routine anchored him. He didn't spiral because his day still had purpose. Negative thoughts tried to return during moments of loneliness. You're missing out. You're too serious. Is this worth it? Steve applied what he had learned about how to control negative thoughts. He didn't argue, observer. And then he returned to action. Action always brought clarity back. This phase taught Steve something important. Growth often feels lonely before it feels rewarding. And that loneliness isn't a sign you're wrong. It's a sign you're changing. Time continued moving forward, and Steve continued moving with it. Tomorrow is the most dangerous lie. Steve never became famous. He never went viral. His name didn't appear in headlights, but he built something far more rare. He built control over his own life. Looking back, Steve understood the truth. Most people learn too late. Time is neutral. It doesn't care about dreams, excuses, or intentions. It simply moves. And whatever you don't do today, it quietly removes from your future. Tomorrow isn't hope. Tomorrow is delay wearing a friendly mask. Steve learned that discipline isn't about being harsh. It's about being honest. Honest with your time. Honest with your habits. Honest with the life you're creating when no one is watching. He stopped waiting to feel ready. He stopped negotiating with comfort. He stopped lying to himself. This story isn't about talent. It isn't about luck. It's about respect. Respect for time. Respect for effort. Respect for the truth that every small decision compounds into a life. If you're still telling yourself later, remember it is later stealing your life quietly. 1 hour at a time. Start now. Not perfectly. Not confidently. Just intentionally. Because time will move forward whether you do or not. And the scariest moment isn't failure. It's realizing you never